Johnny D with this week's Outstanding Life podcast. And I want to make sure that I let everybody know that you can follow us on Spotify. You can follow us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, SoundCloud, and Player FM. So if you're not listening on one of those, you can listen to us on everything that you listen to podcasts on. And don't forget, now you can make donations to the Outstanding Life podcast on PayPal, as well as support on Patreon. I am in Wyandotte, Michigan today. We are live at the Silver Ballroom right next to Joe's Hamburger, and I am right now sitting at the table with, no, not Joe, but the owner, Jeremy Sladovnik, and Bill Melbach. I can't believe it. Finally, months and months goes by, and I'm finally here with you. We're finally doing the podcast. And just like I said, what number were you in hockey?
22.
22. It's Sladovnik going down, skating down the ice. There he goes. Oh, the gloves drop, and there he is. There's fists flying everywhere. You were a hockey player.
I was. I like to say I'm a hockey player now, and I'm a cook. I'm a stock boy. I'm an owner, a manager. You name it. Throw it out there. I try.
Real quick for the podcast audience here, before he gets too humble on us, we're sitting in the likes of one of Detroit's famous grinders. Detroit loves grinders like Probert and Koser.
Right, not those kind of grinders.
Stu Grimson. Okay, so we're sitting with
we're in a pizzeria.
We're sitting with an actual enforcer. If you've seen the movie Slapshot, Goon, I mean, this guy's actually lived that life. So I just wanted to set that stage real quick. So before he gets too humble on us.
Oh my,
Bill, man, that is awesome. And those of you that I know, Bill, you've been on what, 5, 6, 7 podcasts already?
Oh yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I know.
I've got a face for podcasts. I love it.
Well, we always have a good time, and we are sitting here with Jeremy. And Jeremy, yes, you are a hockey player. You are from the Downriver area. I got to ask, we're like, before we get into the whole owning businesses and your family and playing hockey, what were you like as a kid when you were growing up here? Now, were you born and raised here in Wyandotte?
Yes, I was born and raised in Wyandotte, a Catholic schoolboy.
Really? Where'd you go to school?
St. Stan's.
I went to St. Pius.
Okay, so you're familiar.
Yes.
Yes.
Where'd you go to high school?
For high school, Roosevelt.
Okay, so
I was a Wyandotte Bear.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So what were you like as a kid?
Geez, I was busy. I couldn't sit still. I was busy. I always wanted to be doing, riding my bike, playing on the railroad tracks, catching salamanders, frogs, tadpoles.
So you were a typical boy.
Yes, climbing trees, occasionally lighting stuff on fire,
Doing homework, did that come to play at any time?
God, I don't think
He's like,
so.
next question, Johnny
Yes.
D. So when did hockey come into your life?
Okay, so hockey came into my life when I was in 6th grade.
Really?
Yep.
So you got a late start compared to a lot of these kids.
Yep, I was a very late start. I had a great childhood, a great upbringing, a great family on both sides. Both my parents are divorced when I was 5 years old. So it was different,
Yeah.
I mean, God, how do I say this without by any means, I don't want anybody to go, I feel so sorry for this guy.
Right.
But no, I mean, my parents divorced when I was 5 years old. Lived with my grandparents for a while. The whole stereotypical divorce family thing where my dad was an over-the-road truck driver. I'd see him on Saturdays from 12 to 5, and that was it. And then over the years, as I started getting older, it was, hey, I think I kind of want to see my dad a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think I want to maybe stay Saturday night, maybe catch up with him on Friday morning, or, so, my life kind of progressed really with my relationship with my dad.
And your dad was
just
here
like that.
this afternoon.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, me and Bill walked in for the podcast waiting on you, and your dad was like, hey, what's up, guys?
Yep. I try and take every moment to enjoy my dad and my grandfather.
Yeah.
Because I see them the most. I see my mom a lot, but my grandfather comes every day. My dad pretty much comes every day. And at 70 years old for my dad and 92 for my grandfather, I believe those minutes are special and they need to be had.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I know I was here on Saturday and your grandfather was walking out and he stops by the table, doesn't even know who I am. And he's like, is everything good here? Is everything good? Yep, perfect. Awesome, thanks.
Yeah.
And he walked out and just, went on his day. So anyways,
Yep.
You're in 6th grade, you're playing hockey.
So
did you fall in love with hockey right away?
Well, you know how it really started was my dad was an over-the-road truck driver. My mom was a banker. We didn't come from a lot of money. And as everybody knows, hockey is an expensive sport.
Yeah.
Skates were always $200-300. Sticks were back in the day 20 or 30.
Jeremy, I just heard a statistic today.
What's that?
That it cost an average family just playing regular hockey $2,700 a year to put their kid through hockey.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. I mean, it's probably all of $500 for a hockey school.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't really know.
I just heard that statistic today on the news.
Yeah. So I managed to get my hands on a pair of rollerblades, which back in the day, again, so you really got to remember, my family didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
So there was, we can't afford rollerblades, but we can get you these type of rollerblades, which were heavier, bigger, bulkier.
Yeah.
So I was always slower. But what I didn't realize was that I was building muscle at a faster pace than the fastest skater was.
Yeah.
Because, they were heavier.
Right.
My skates were probably 5 pounds each, where his were 2 pounds.
Right.
So, and they were big and they were clanky and clunky. And it was a very, it was a heavy deal. So my friends lived all around me. A couple of them played hockey since they were kids. They were great. They were the Turners. They were the Turner family. And there was Jen and Josh. And I don't really bring this up much at all, but we lived right behind the FOP Park in Wyandotte.
Okay.
And we had tennis courts, so we would snap those tennis nets down and get them out of the way, bring in our nets, and start playing ball hockey all day on Saturdays. Yeah. I mean, all day.
Do you remember those hockey balls? They were bright orange. You're talking about those ones, and they hurt. Being a goalie, they hurt.
Oh yes, and there were no. I mean, we played hard. We played tough. There were no, we barely had goaltenders, but we played hard. We shot hard. We skated hard. And that's when, I was with Josh and Jen, and they were playing exceptional levels of ice hockey because they had it going on.
When you said Jen, is that a girl?
Yep.
Really?
She was a female, lived 2 houses away from me.
And she was awesome hockey player.
Yeah, I think she was maybe, if not my same age, a year older.
Wow.
So there was a lot of, they had friends. I didn't really have many friends that played ice hockey. So, when we went to the park to play at the tennis courts, it was all day. I couldn't get enough, right? I waited the entire week to come to my dad's to skate.
Yeah.
And then the following year, I got on a pair of ice skates. And
do you remember who you got those first pair of skates from?
Yeah. My uncle, I believe my Uncle Kenny got me a pair of skates because he used to get me a piece of equipment every year. It was either a pair of hockey gloves, a pair of skates. My dad was really instrumental, but in getting me everything I needed, and then along with even like coaches, if I didn't have something, here's a neck guard or here's shin pads. My first shin pads were from the 70s, but they were amazing, and I wore them into junior hockey.
Yeah, and you appreciated them too, didn't you? Because
they were perfect. They weren't bulky. They were just perfect for me. But we would go every year. We always had one time of the year that we would go to Windsor, to Devonshire Mall, to National Sporting Goods Store. And if you've ever been to National Sporting Goods Store, it's like being in Kmart for hockey players.
Right.
There was a wall the size of, it was ginormous.
Yeah,
and it had hockey pants all over it. And then there was another wall with nothing but like gloves.
Yeah.
Nice.
There was
And
a
back
helmet
then, our
section.
money used to be worth more over there.
Right. Yeah. I think. So it was like weird. You know, you take $100 and go there and you have like 500.
So when you went from rollerblades to ice skates, were you just as good?
It was different, you know. It was transitional for me because roller skating and rollerblading is much different than ice skating.
Yeah.
And the stride is a little different. So if you're able to, figure out the stride and transition it, you know, it probably takes you about, 10 or 15 minutes to say, oh, wow, I'm not on wheels.
Right.
You know, because on rollerblades, we didn't have any brakes. You
Right,
know?
yeah.
I mean, actually, my first year of hockey, I had no brakes, which is super cool, man. My first hockey coach comes into Joe's all the time, and I had a really cool conversation with him a couple days ago on Saturday about me growing up, because a lot of the people that I run into, I don't remember.
Yeah,
but I run into my coach comes in a lot, and my second grade teacher. I tend to run into her everywhere.
Right.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It was one of them. I thought you would have ended up in jail or something. I'm like, kidding me?
So sixth grade, seventh grade, you go through high school. Did you play for the Bears? And did they have a hockey team?
I played a little bit for Roosevelt. My goal was I wanted to play in the NHL like every other kid, And
How'd that go for you?
And well, I mean,
you went through high school. Did you end up playing?
I didn't play high school. I played high school for a very short time because my best friend told me if I want to play professional ice hockey at the highest level, I have to go play travel.
Okay.
Travel hockey is expensive.
Yep.
I think
I played.
Yep. So, my parents didn't have a ton of money.
Yeah.
And it was just, okay, what do I got to do, Keith? It's my best friend. And I'm like, yeah, well, let me talk to my dad. My dad will take care of this and take care of that.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, I'm playing travel in Lincoln Park.
Okay.
And I'm playing with a bunch of guys that I still talk to this day. But, I mean, it was wild.
Yeah.
I guess I got to just say that it was wild. At 14 and 15 years old, I'm thrown into a team with a bunch of E-Course, River Rouge, and Lincoln Park kids. And here I am, this kid from Wyandotte.
Right.
I try and make all the right decisions, and here I am with these guys, and the coach, my coach Dwayne Smith at the time was a E-Course paddock pools guy. Grew up, I think his dad was Bob Heller, which if you know the Heller family, they're very instrumental in hockey, and Dwayne was tough as nails. He didn't give a squat,
Yeah.
We were either going to beat you on the boards or beat you in the ice.
Just real quick, Johnny, I wanted to insert here for the audience. One of the things that inspires me about Jeremy's story here is we're going along is your drive, your determination, and your love for what you're doing. So Jeremy may not have had the resources, his family didn't have the money. I think one of the main lessons our audience can take away from your story is if you really love something and you're chasing this dream, whether you even know it or not, I mean, you just loved what you're doing. That passion alone, I mean, it's just amazing to me how that passion alone drives you.
Yeah, and to compound on what you were saying was that the one thing I just learned recently is what you just said about resources. So you can have resources or you can be resourcefulness.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
And those are two different things.
Exactly.
And if you're able to apply them, that's what really makes the difference.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a lot of resources, but I was resourcefulness.
Yep.
So going back to sixth grade when I was, playing and training and whatnot, I went to Taft Elementary for sixth grade. And in the parking lot, we had our playground, and there was a basketball net that had one pole that came out of the ground with a hoop on it, right? So and this was my deal, because I grew up in the streets of Wyandotte, right? Sounds rough, but it's not.
Yeah, most people are going, why
The main
not
streets are Wyandotte.
But I grew up in the streets of Wyandotte where, there wasn't much to do, but I learned how to take a slap shot on the street at a fire hydrant. My Uncle Kenny taught me how to take a slap shot. And he'd just say, you got to hit the fire hydrant. You know, we'd be 5 feet away. And so I kind of took that with me my whole life.
Yeah.
So when I'm going back to this school playground lot, there was that post, you know, it was probably like 4 or 5 inch diameter. And my deal was I had to hit it 10 times in a row.
Yep.
So I would be, you know, top of the hash marks.
That's cool.
I'd hit it 10 times in a row. Then I'd move back to like a blue line, make it like 30, 40 feet, 10 times in a row. Then I'd move it back 50 feet. Then I'm all the way at the back of the lot. And my only goal was to hit it 10 times in a row before I could go home. I would not leave until I hit it 10 times in a row.
Kind of like a quarterback or a pitcher.
Yeah.
When it comes to them pitching and throwing the ball through the tire.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, same kind of deal.
This is great. I can imagine how many thousands, I mean, millions of kids everywhere doing the same type of thing.
And their parents
this is
right
where
now
it
going,
starts.
oh my kid's the same way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when you have goals and you're driven, this is what happens.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
And I mean, I would just sit there and I would just look at it and I would shoot it and I would shoot it harder. And I, you know, when back then I was using my little street puck.
Yeah.
So when it would hit the post, it'd be like ting,
Right.
ting,
Yeah.
ting, you know? And
Yeah.
it would, you know, if I hit it good, it would like hit the left or right side of the post and then shoot off like 100 feet.
Right.
And I'm like, you know?
It's another good lesson for our audience too. It's not just talent. I mean, this is actually just doing it. I mean, you're talking
Right.
about just drive. You're going to hit that thing thousands and thousands
So
of times.
my Uncle Kenny always taught me, practice what you can't do, not what you can.
Absolutely.
So he's like, if you could take a slap shot, how's your backhand? And I'm being like, I can't get off the ice. He goes, well, guess what we're doing today?
Right.
Backhands for
Yeah.
the next 6 months. And that's always been my thing. It's like, practice what you can't do, not what you can, and be a leader, not a Peter.
Yep.
2 things, you know?
Yeah. No, that's great.
So
I think you just found the title for the podcast right there.
right.
Be a leader, not a Peter.
You know?
I love that.
So, you know, here I am. I'm in 6th grade, you know, and I'm just straight training. I start to make some hockey teams, and I was big. I wasn't little. You know, I was a lot bigger than most of the kids my age, and I started catching some breaks, you know, on the ice. I couldn't stop, but, you know, I figured that's what the goalie was for. We could hit everybody, right? You know, that was, I guess you can't, you know?
That's awesome.
So now I'm playing, you know, city hockey with my friends. And
But travel.
well, not in the beginning.
Oh, gotcha.
You know,
Okay.
I didn't really turn travel until I was in like 10th grade.
Okay.
Because my freshman year, I ended up playing Roosevelt for a little bit. And then I left Roosevelt and went and played travel.
Okay.
So it was like 10th. Yeah, it was like 9th and 10th because by 11th and 12th, I had already been playing Canadian juniors.
Really? So take us to that point when you got scouted to play for Canada.
Well,
At such
I
a-
wish I would have gotten scouted.
Oh, so you didn't get
know?
scouted. So
no,
what happened?
No, it was hard work, man. So where were
Did you try out? I mean, because you were a junior and a senior.
For my junior team, I did not. My tryout was I was on the opposite team.
Now, those of you that are hearing that dong dong, that is one of the pinball machines here at the Silver Ballroom. That Jeremy, this is one of the coolest places in
It is.
Wyandotte.
It's awesome.
He has a bunch of really cool pinball machines, and he has a bar, and he has a pizzeria and stuff like that. So if you do hear kind of weird sounds throughout this podcast, it's because of one of the 10 pinball machines that are here. So, anyways, go ahead.
Where'd I leave off at?
You were talking about
about
being-
junior hockey.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're playing bantams and midgets.
Yep.
And
Yep.
after you age out, the next step is junior hockey. So all my friends, you know, they're all going to play in these local Detroit teams, and they're, you know, not just me, but there's probably like 10 bantam and midget teams, and there's a lot of like players. And knowing where I came from and knowing what I was physically and talented to do, it was hard, you know, because I just couldn't walk on the ice and break into a lineup. You know, I mean, I had to find ways to be noticed. And that was the one thing that I always learned. I had to learn was leaving your mark. You know, like when I leave, what are people going to remember me from or for, and how am I going to be remembered, and yada yada yada. So, you know, I'm trying out with a team called the Motor City Chiefs back in the day with Keith Utinen. Norman was his name, and I knew Norman, the family, because I had skated with a Norman. And, you know, God bless his soul, the kid wore jeans under his hockey equipment. Wow. He would never like gear down. And I never got that deal because, you know, but whatever. But, you know, if
there's a lot of hockey players out there right now going, we have somebody like that.
Yeah. You know, like if you wouldn't understand it, and it's hard to understand that guy. But, so I'm trying out for these guys with my friends, and I'm not really getting anything. I'm not seeing any coaches come to me, patting me on the back like they're patting everybody else on the back, like they're chumming up. And I'm just sitting there going, uh-oh, like, okay, I got to figure something out.
Yeah.
You know? So we have an exhibition game in Windsor or in Amherstburg against the Admirals. And, you know, we get out there, we all ride a bus, you know, a school bus. We get out there in this podunk town. They call it the Berg. You know, we're playing these ruffians, and here I am. I'm out there. I'm beating the living snot out of guys. I'm sticking them. I'm hitting them. I'm elbowing them. I'm punching them in the face. I'm shooting the puck. I'm passing the puck. I'm skating my bag off. You know, I'm doing everything I need to do to make the Motor City team.
Yeah.
Game ends, and now, and you got to remember this, because I have to paint this picture for you. Okay, it's a small town of probably, let's say, like 3,000 people, Amherstburg, and it's a barn. Now, when I say a barn, I'm talking old school Canadian barn.
Nice.
You know,
Old
Queen
time
Elizabeth is, you know, Queen Elizabeth is up on the wall. You know, it's O Canada. Then it's you know, the national anthem. The American national anthem. Then it's like, okay, now it's game time, right?
Right.
So after the game, I go up to Coach and I say, hey, Coach, do I got a spot on the team? Well, we'll talk about it later. And I'm like, oh, man, I don't really want to leave.
Right.
So I skate 10 feet over to the other coach's bench, and his name was Paul Fulbert. He was a French guy. There was Paul Fulbert, and there was Greg Jackson, and there was another guy. And I skate over and I say, hey, Coach, you wouldn't by any chance have a spot on your team for a guy like me, would you? And the Chiefs guy's looking at me, and he's going, like, you know, just like, I can't believe you just did this. And they look at me and they go, we got practice tomorrow, 9 o'clock. I'm like, okay, be here. I'm like, great. I get back in the locker room, and it's, by the time I walk into the locker room, it's silence. And everybody's like, oh, man, what did you just do? And I'm like, what do you mean, what did I just do? I want to play hockey, man. Like, that's what I want to do.
So for anybody else, insert the Hollywood picture here, you know, slap shot. This is like the missing Hanson brothers. Like you might as well put the black glasses on with the tape. Put me in, Coach.
So literally you got so sick and tired of no, that you went right up to the coach and said, what do I need to do to be on your team?
Yep.
I just got chills.
Yeah.
Like, you talk about, like, and you're young.
Yeah, I was 16.
I was just 16, 17 years old. Yeah, you're 16 years old and said, listen, what do I need to do
to
be on your team?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that coach said, probably was like shocked, first of all. And he's like, be here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
That's a success takeaway from this, too.
Absolutely.
You got to ask. Sometimes you got to ask.
Yeah. I guess it's the old cliche, Bill, Jeremy, and it goes something like this. The squeaky wheel always gets the grease.
And you don't know unless you ask.
You don't know. All they can do is say no, right?
Yep.
Anyways,
that doesn't hurt.
Right.
You know? So he says, show up the next day. And, you know, from there on, it was like, okay, let's do this. Now I'm driving to Amherstburg 5 days a week.
From Michigan.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
From here, from Wyandotte to Amherstburg. and there it was. You know, my dad didn't make a lot of my Canadian ice hockey career games, and my mom didn't. You know, they probably seen maybe like a half a dozen. You know, but
your dad made sure you had a vehicle to get you there and back, correct?
No, I hitched rides. I did borrow my dad's truck or car to
probably when he was out of town, right?
You know, I would wake up at 5 a.m, take my dad to work, who worked in Springwells and in Central and Michigan Avenue, drop my dad off at 5:30 in the morning to get in a truck to drive wherever he's got to drive.
That's what I'm talking about,
Yes.
right there. You talk about the dedication and the passion, and
you know,
paying the
because
price.
I just needed a car,
Right.
So my dad's like, I get up at 4:30, I'm out the door by 5, I'm there by 5:20, I'm in my truck by 5:30, and on the road by 6.
Wow.
So it's I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever I got to do.
Yeah.
You know? So I would drop them off and pick them up at 4:30 in the afternoon. And that was part of the deal, you know, if I wanted to use the truck. So there was a lot of that going on. But, you know, I managed to just get to Amherstburg, you know, and I was the only well, actually, there was another guy that played that was from Brownstown. His name was Dave. He was younger than me. I forgot about Dave. Dave was young. Dave was soft because he was so young. And if I remember his name, I'll pop it out there. But I see him every now and then. And Dave Bazoin.
Okay.
That's what his name was. And he was good hockey player, you
Yeah.
know. 16 years old playing with 20-year-olds. I'm like,
So what was that like, being so young, but then being the outsider? That had to be a little bit intimidating, correct?
you know, I really wasn't intimidated. Back
Really?
then, yeah. I didn't get intimidated because I was just playing the game.
Right,
And I
right.
knew that in 6 months, I'm not going to be here.
Right.
And that's how it was for the 4 years of juniors.
Jeremy, what led you to the place of being the muscle? I mean, Bill, you said it perfect the other day when we were hanging out here and we came here for lunch. And,
Yeah.
And you said to Jeremy, you're like, dude, let me see your hands.
Yeah.
And you're like, what happened? And then you start telling Bill the story. At what point in this career path of playing hockey did you realize that, hey, I'm bigger than everybody, and you know what? Fighting might be my thing.
So
Would that be the right way to put it, Bill?
Yeah. What's my skill set?
You know, it was.
We all have a skill set,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So the one thing I learned in ice hockey, and I don't know if this is like a secret, but I'll just throw it out there. There are 5 things that I had to have in order to play in the NHL. And one was you had to be able to shoot, you had to be able to pass, you had to have hockey smarts, you had to be tough, and you had to be able to skate. So normally, if you had 3 of those things, you would be okay. And some of the things that cannot be taught is toughness and hockey smarts. You can't teach that. You either have it or you don't.
Right.
You can always learn how to skate, shoot, and pass.
Yep.
So one of the things that I was really good at was, one, I just didn't. I knew that if I would have stayed where I was and doing what I'm doing, I probably would have ended up somewhere in the system. And I didn't.
What kind of system?
The system.
I didn't know if you were talking about the system or if you were talking about the hockey system.
No, I probably, I mean, so let me just retract a little bit because, how do I say this, without hurting my mom and dad's feelings? But there was a point in my time when, my parents weren't around where I had to just figure it out. And it was me and my sister. And, when mom and dad's not around, you tend to do shit.
Yeah.
You get in fights, you screw around, you get in trouble.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, the cops came in my house more than once.
Right.
And they wondered where stuff was.
Yeah.
But, and it just was like, I don't know. I don't know how it got there. Just like-
But this is another amazing part of the story. This is why, like, I like the fan. I mean, the people love the movies,
Right.
You know, but it's like when you get to meet somebody who actually lived that.
That's
Like,
right.
there's one thing to be a goon on the ice and to get to use those. I mean, you talk about the skill level, but it's also another thing to have a sledgehammer right hook. But
Right.
that doesn't do a whole lot if you're getting angry or something
Right.
in real life. What do you do with that?
Right.
And so like, you know, I knew that if I didn't like focus, and I had a hard time focusing, and I'm sure I had ADHD because I just can't sit still.
Show me a guy that doesn't have it.
Right. Which
Take us to any store, any car lot. Show me one guy that doesn't have ADD.
And it's just like you were just on the other day with Anne Marie.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know, I wanted to come sit down and talk to you, but I was busy.
Right.
I was
Oh,
doing.
yeah.
How many times do you come in that I'm just not sitting?
Right. Never.
You're right. So I just knew that, and I don't know what it was, but I kind of look at things like this. Like, my mom's a banker, my dad's a truck driver. The chances of me being a factory rat was really good. Mm-hmm. And if I didn't want to be, I have to do things extra than just the ordinary,
Right.
because I surely could have just went and worked at Ford's,
Right.
or Chrysler, or
Yep.
something along those lines. But you know, I chose not to. I chose to train, and you know, a lot of my training was, and I didn't work. And when I did work, it was with my buddies. You know, we'd work at the boatyard because he was the master docksman over there,
Right.
and we'd wash and wax boats and sand and paint hulls all year long. and I would get in my rollerblade to Powerhouse Gym, work out, rollerblade back, eat, run from the north end of town to Roosevelt, do 25 bleachers, 25 laps around the track, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, get back, run home, train, get back on my skates, and shoot the puck, yada, yada, yada.
Wow.
That was just my deal.
Yeah.
You know, because I didn't have money to be on the ice, and I didn't have money to have the full-blown gym membership. So there were a lot of, like, remember the free passes back in the day?
Yeah, yeah.
There were a lot of free passes in my life.
Yeah.
Bill, do you know what I love about this story too? He didn't have an excuse.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
He looked in the mirror and said, "You know what? Don't have an excuse. Go out there and rollerblade.
Yeah.
Run the bleachers.
Exactly. That's why I
do
love the
whatever
story.
it took to make it happen." Now, you were telling me and Bill a story the other day when you went from this point, and two buddies of yours that were playing hockey said, "Hey,
Yeah.
listen, man, we need a ride." Because you're the only one with a car,
Right.
So talk a little bit about that, because you're all of a sudden your career.
Let me fast forward there just for a second too, and let people know. Jeremy ended up playing in 4 different leagues. Okay, he was, you know, Muskova Bears, Cranbrook Colts,
Yeah.
Flint Generals. So now, before he hits this career, this is the moment that then sort of like pivots you into this career, right?
So I had my first year of junior hockey under my belt, and I'm trying to break into a junior A team because I didn't play junior A, but I'm trying to break into a junior A team and not lose my college eligibility. I thought I was a college hockey player. You know, I'm like, this is great. I
That's
mean,
a great part of the story.
I'm
too.
actually getting letters from like Notre Dame University, who is just starting out their program. And here I am going, I'm not going to Notre Dame. Like, right there.
Yeah,
You know, like, I'm a Spartan, baby. You know? Yeah. You know, and needless to say, my Spartan was not an accepting letter. You know? But, you know, so we got my first year of juniors under my belt, and I am now in Dearborn Heights at the ice rink with 2 of my buddies, and they're getting ready to go up to Sault Ste. Marie, and I'm like, I want to go, and they're like, well, you're not invited. I'm like, well, why can't I go? Well, you weren't invited. I go, well, how are you
Invited
guys?
by who?
I don't know.
Oh.
You know, I don't know. I don't know
It's
any
the
of this
mystery.
stuff.
It's the mystery thing.
You know, I'm just trying to get there.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm like, well, when are you guys going? How are you getting there? Well, we don't know. I'm like, really? I have a car. And they're like, yeah? Well, then you can go. And I'm like, all right, cool.
This is another success tip. When in doubt, just insert yourself.
You know? So here I am now. It's me, a goaltender, and a forward with all our equipment in the car, which, by the way, it was a Tracer. Remember the Tracer?
Yes.
Very small.
Nice,
The
yes.
Mercury Tracer.
Yes, yes.
And you have a goalie with you, which has, because I was a goalie, I know how much equipment you have.
I had a Pinto, and the Tracer was bigger than the Pinto.
My first car was a Pinto.
Yeah. So, here we are. Now we're going up to Sault Ste. Marie. Never been there in my entire life.
Yeah.
Didn't know how far away it was. It was far. So we get up there. I got a room. I think I crashed with these jokers for a minute, and it wasn't long. I might have even slept in my car up there. But it was eye-opening. It was the first place I've ever seen a bar fight in the middle of the street. I'm like, and I'm watching these guys cold cock each other. I'm like, oh my God.
And how old were you?
I would have been like 17 or 18.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
And, I'm just like, I got to get back in the hotel. I don't even want to hang out in the Sioux anymore.
So what was it like the first time you got on the ice with these guys?
Well, I just worried about myself.
Yeah.
Because these guys obviously they didn't care about me, and so I just worried about myself. And come the end of the weekend, my name was on the list. There were only like 5 names on the list, and my name was on the list, and their 2 names were on the list, and I'm like going, all right, this is cool. I guess we all made it. And these 2 guys, I don't know who these guys are. So
Were they mad? Do you remember that?
No, they weren't mad, but it was weird.
You know what I mean by that, though? I mean, because some people get upset.
Sure.
They want to see you do well until you do well.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, that wasn't
they're
cool.
like, wait, how did the chauffeur from the Tracer end up on the list?
Right. So now I'm like, okay, this is great. Now what do we do? And it's like, well, now we're going to Muskoka. And I'm like, going, Muskoka? Oh, geez. Okay, where's Muskoka? Muskoka was like 6 hours west
further
of
north.
Toronto, and Toronto was already 4 hours. And now I don't know which way's northeast or west.
Right.
Because I don't even know how they do it in Canada, but I don't know which way's west.
So the hockey gods just took him north.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
So now we get that was what did they call that back then? They called this like a regional mini camp, a regional camp. So it was like a regional tryout. If you made the regionals, then you got to go to the mini and then the main camp. And when you're playing hockey in a small town, everybody shoots for the team, and there was like 14-year-olds playing junior high hockey, and I'm like, God damn, you're amazing. Are you kidding me? And like your name and your family's name is on everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who is this kid? Because he's skating on the first line, and his name was David. His name was Josh Faulkner.
Okay.
And his brother was David Faulkner, who played at Miami of Ohio, hockey family, which was great because I looked up to the Faulkners. And so here I am now, and now we got to get up there, right? And we drive up there. It's like 8-10 hours to get there. First weekend goes by great. Okay, cool. Dad, I got to go back another weekend. Okay, so you'll be without the vehicle again for another 3 to 4 days. We get up there again, and it's...
So your dad was very supportive.
Yeah, yep. So we do it again. And finally, now I'm in the 3rd weekend, and I'm really out of money. My parents are out of money. They can't afford a hotel bill. And gas, up, and it's like 4 tanks of gas. It's 2 nights in a hotel. It's food. Mm-hmm. So finally, I'm up there on my 3rd time. Now I'm sleeping in my car, and I stink. My equipment's in my car, and my parents don't even know any of this stuff.
Right.
I would never tell them. But so now I'm like sleeping in my car, and now it's same story again. Hey, coach. What do I got to do to make this team? Because I've already came up here 2 weekends in a row, and I don't know if I can keep doing this.
Yeah.
And the Huff boys or the Huff Brothers, as they're known in Canadian ice hockey. And if
Yes.
you know the Huff Brothers,
Canadian hockey lore.
it's my way or the highway,
Right.
with like this French accent of some sort, and they were tough noses. Oh, it's Scott. And it was tough. These guys were tough backwoods hockey players. That's what they were, And it was my way or the highway. And I'll never forget one story with them too. I make sure, well, actually,
Yeah, just tell it.
Just tell it.
It was
I have a feeling right now, I like literally we are down to like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, I knew this would happen.
I have a feeling that this is going to go into the number 2, episode 1, episode 2, because
Sure.
we haven't even touched on you being an entrepreneur or nothing
man.
else. So I
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to keep going here.
We got to get to the hamburgers at some
Right,
point.
yeah, right.
So I get pulled in because I'm on a last place team, and it was old school barn, old school hockey. It was what they call a cottage country. So when the snow hits, everything closes.
Okay.
There's nothing to do except one place called Denham's, which happened to be a bar, and I had no money, so I definitely wasn't doing that.
Yeah, and in Canada, you only had to be 19 to drink.
Right.
So-
Right. But I didn't drink alcohol. I didn't drink any alcohol growing up. My dad always taught me that if you drink one day, you put yourself back 2 weeks. And there's
Wow,
always
really?
one guy training harder than you. So go ahead, drink all you want. And I'm like,
Wow.
no, I'm just gonna train. That was
Great advice.
That was
You know
it.
what? That kind of hit me like a ton of bricks right now. Say that again. Just to the person that's listening right now.
He said that if you drink tonight, you're going to be 2 weeks behind in your training. So that means you're going to have to train much harder than the other guy that isn't. And that was the
great
one
advice.
thing. I just
Yeah, definitely.
I never drank, I never smoked. It was all about protein shakes.
Yeah.
Which my protein shake was vanilla ice cream, peanut butter, and an egg.
So your story about the guys.
Nice.
Yeah. So where was I at?
You were talking about the you're like
the
"Don't-"
Huff Boys.
Yeah, the Huff
Yeah.
Boys.
So I asked him, and he's, Jeremy, you got to show me more than what you're showing me now. So I go out there, and we're skating, and I put my stick on a guy. I did something with him. He ended up going into the boards pretty hard. He got up, and we started fighting. And I just happened to get the better half of the fight, I guess. Coach Huff's over the glass, spitting sideways, going, "You can't be fighting in here." And I'm like, I don't know. The guy came at me. I just hit him. It was that easy, So I go, "Coach, did I make the team?" He goes, "Yeah, you're on the team." I'm like, "Cool. This is great."
So your first fight, the coach is like, "Oh my God, we found our guy."
Yeah, must have, So there I was.
Did you ever picture yourself as a fighter though?
Even I never really did.
Well, I think part of the culture is I don't think as they're playing, I think he's there to protect the big scorer. I mean, because the scorer is not going to fight for himself, so then they send in Jeremy.
They
to
always
protect
put
the
me
guy.
against the first line guy.
Yeah.
Wait a
Yes,
second. Wait a
exactly.
second, Bill.
Exactly.
Unless I'm mistaken, what position did you play?
I was a right winger.
Okay, because I never asked. So
No,
right
I was
winger.
a winger. Yep.
Okay.
And actually, there's a great.
What was Probert? Was he a winger?
He was a winger too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I got a great story about the position, in the following year. So I ended up playing with this 5th place team all year long. It was junior A hockey.
Yep.
So I managed to crack into junior A after 2 years of juniors, which was, for me, it was great. Because when you played Canadian hockey, you didn't pay for anything.
Okay.
And that was my other thing. I had to play Canadian hockey in order to get skates, sticks, equipment, ice time, to do this. Because American hockey, you had to pay. And it just was not happening. So here I am playing in Muskoka, great town. I kind of lived with a few billets. Again, when I talk about back in the day when my parents weren't really around that much and I could have gotten in trouble, I learned to live independently. I learned to be resourcefulness. That's just how it was. So, some of the hockey families, they either billet a hockey player because they never could have children, or because they have children and they want you to be a role model for that child, or because they just love the sport, or because they just, whatever it may be.
So a family took you in?
Yep.
Really?
Yep. So that year I had a couple of them, because I wasn't your stereotypical kid. I was very independent, and I was very, I don't want to say isolated, but I didn't know anybody.
Right.
And, I'll never forget my one billet. They're like, hey, we're going to have manicotti. I go, I don't like fish. And it's like, well, you might like this one. It's not fish. And I'm like, okay, cool. And so I lived with a few, and I finally found my rhythm with a family that allowed me to be independent. They allowed me to eat what I wanted when I wanted, and I cleaned up after myself because I was doing my laundry at 10 years old.
Yeah.
That's how it was.
Right, yeah.
I was, hey, you want to shovel my roof? Sure, no problem. Here's a ladder, here's a shovel. Go up and shovel the roof. It's like, all right, never done this before, but I moved here in the summer, so I had no winter clothes. And the best thing that you could ever get as a hockey player was a team jacket.
Yeah.
Or a tracksuit. That was the greatest thing you could ever get.
I think it is to this day. I mean, when you get your varsity jacket, or you're on a team and you get that the
I
jumpsuit.
still have my tracksuits.
Wow.
That's
cool.
It's just it's
very cool.
Yeah, it's you get a tracksuit and it fits you. That's even better, because you just didn't get what was left over.
Right, right.
This actually was an extra large, and the pants fit me and everything. So it was super
So when
cool.
when that coach told you that you're on the team, at what point did something click and you all of a sudden were not just the right winger, you were the fighter?
Well, Johnny, I never looked at myself as a fighter, and
you might not have.
Yeah, I did not.
But the audience and the coaches did.
The penalty minutes speak differently.
Wait a second, Bill, because this would be a perfect time to bust out the what would you call it? A trading card that we found online.
But that was from my years in the minors.
Really?
Yeah, that was like
so we found this, and the only photo we could find of the trading card was you fighting. So obviously that right there, my friend, is on eBay right now for $2. And why we were just talking,
$22.
Oh, they're $22. Oh, okay, cool.
I feel much better.
Yeah,
but
don't worry, we're going to gobble them up before the audience gets to them.
I just bought them on eBay.
Sorry,
and
audience.
Bill, I'm going to give you one, and I just bought the other one. So just so you know, I bought them both. So at what point, though, okay, you didn't consider yourself a fighter, but obviously when you show up and people are expecting you, and what I mean, it's still entertainment. Hockey, it's skill, it's this and that.
So I never understood that, because the only thing going through my mind is I need to stick on the team, I need to do what coach says, and I need to start thinking about next year.
Right. So at some point, did the coach start telling you, okay, go beat him up?
Well, there was, you're sitting on the bench and you feel a foot in your ass. I don't know. Are you familiar with that?
I was the goalie, so I was always the one.
Right. So it's always up, boom, get out there. And I'm like, okay. So I'd get out there and then I'd come back and he goes, sit down.
So now this is a positive, but now see, in Muskoka, he's got 2 goals and 213 penalty minutes. 213. He's mostly on the other side of the ice in the box than on his own bench.
Which let me remind you, I remember every single goal.
There was only 2.
I remember all of them.
Hey, and it was after a fight, and the goalie got removed. So no, I'm just joking.
But the best part
Gretzky
about
doesn't
hockey,
remember all his goals.
Yeah, well, no, but the best part is the people that went home. They remember the fight.
Sure,
that's right.
Sure, yeah. So now I'm starting to figure this stuff out, and I'm running into these guys. I mean, these are it wasn't until my next year that things got real serious. But in Ontario hockey, there were some big boys. I mean, some of these boys didn't skate with pads.
I'd say so.
Are you kidding me?
He tripled his goal production. He had 6 goals. He also had 637 minutes.
Wait, are you serious, Bill?
Penalty minutes,
so,
yes.
So he went from 2 goals to 6.
Yes,
but
which is
then
great
also,
production.
Which is great. But then he also tripled his penalty minutes.
No, that's pretty tough. That's pretty tough
obviously
to do.
something
How many
happened.
games, Bill?
So obviously something
40.
happened from one year to the
No,
next.
it's 56 games.
56 games, over 600 penalty minutes.
That's a lot. Which I believe it's 727.
Okay,
So at what point though? So obviously something happened from one year to the next.
Yep. So I trained harder and I got more focused. And now one of our players by the name of Sean Patchell went to British Columbia to play. And he went mid-season to go play with the Vernon Vipers. So now I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I might need to get the hell out of here. And I might need to get to British Columbia because I don't know what's going on in BC. But if he left, I need to go. And our team, we weren't going to make it out of the first round. And when you're an American-born player playing on a Canadian team and you're not going to go to the next round and it's close to the end of the month, they tend to start, P&Ls, profit and loss. Okay, Jeremy and you other 2 Americans, we're not going to keep you past the 30th and we're not going to make it past the first round. So you guys are done.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we got sent packing, and that's the game, just figured it out. So came back home, called up the Vernon Vipers, said, actually I called up Caledon Canadians who was in my league, but they were the best team in my league when I was in Muskoka. And I asked Greg Ireland if I could come play with him and try out because I already had a year and they had other guys that were going to the NHL and they had a couple other tough guys that weren't going to be around. So I went to Caledon and tried out in Caledon. And Greg said, you need to go out to Vernon and see Troy Mix. And I said, okay, I could do that. So I hopped on a plane, a one-way ticket. It was $500 and I flew out to Vernon. And that, I didn't make the Vernon team, which I think we had talked about that story a little bit before. But I ended up playing in Cranbrook, which was amazing.
Yeah.
The Cranbrook Colts?
Yep, Cranbrook Colts. And they were just amazing, classy. Our owner was a millionaire.
Yeah.
Got us whatever we wanted and paid for my flight home. Hockey sticks, skates. I get to keep my jersey. All sorts
Kind
of
of a big
stuff.
deal.
Yeah.
And it feels good as a hockey player.
Real quick, tell us this one story. I don't know how far back it was, but there was a story when you got to go. They were getting sticks, and then the guy told you your
that was
stick was over.
Muskoka.
Yeah. That's a good
That's
story.
right,
That's
yeah.
a good story. I like.
So,
this.
And apparently if you look at my points, I didn't have a lot, but, we got hockey sticks and I needed a stick and coach says, you go over to Reed's Sportswear and Reed will take care of you. So I go over and I'm like, and mind you, I got skates too, but they were a size and a half too big. So I had these brand new skates that were just too big and clunky, and I'm like, I'll deal with it, you know. But we're going to get my stick, and I see all these nice sticks, a nice Hespler, you know. You got a Hespler. I mean, it was sharp. That's what Proby used.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, I'll take a Hespler. And they said, no, you got to go over to the 2-for-1 bin. I'm like, what? They go, yep, you got to go over there and you get those sticks. You don't get any of these sticks on the wall. And I'm like, well, these are all left-handed. I'm a right. And they said, well, there's probably a right in there, And so I ended up with like $10 sticks most of that year. Apparently, I only used it twice.
That's awesome.
No, it's still good.
Okay, hey guys, we are literally rolling up here on an hour. So what I'm going to do is end this podcast, this episode, and we're going to come right back and finish because I want to make sure that we get the rest of your story in because this is just amazing. Again, this is Johnny D with the Outstanding Life podcast with episode number 1 with Jeremy from Joe's Hamburger. And Jeremy, your last name is Sladovnik.
Right.
Sladovnik.
And if you're looking for my memorabilia on eBay,
It's gone.
It's gone. I already bought it. I already bought it. I bought it while we were sitting here.
Where are they shipping it from?
Huh? I can't tell
Where's
you
it
everything.
coming
It's probably
from?
coming from your house.
I hope
It's coming from Wyandotte to Southgate.
I'll call my wife. I'll tell her to call him first. Yeah.
Well, again, this is Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy, listening to the Outstanding Life podcast with episode number 1, done with Jeremy Sladovnik from Wyandotte, Michigan, the owner of Joe's Hamburger and the Silver Ballroom. Again, on behalf of all of us here, be safe, have fun, and have yourselves an outstanding day. And stay